So people keep talking about this thing called the Starmer Project as if that's actually a thing. As if, a Starmer project could be compared to a Blair project or a Thatcher project or a Wilson project. The idea that you have a kind of a guiding political philosophy that shapes policy decisions and a kind of a policy program over a period of 4 years, maybe 8, maybe 12 if you're lucky. And there isn't one. I mean, there just isn't one. There was only one thing that the Starmer project was all about, and that was, as Dan Evans, a sociologist, puts it, is about restoring the power of the professional managerial class. The kind of the tier in society of kind of lawyers and lobbyists and that sort of that sort of social tier, um, who management consultants, people with nice bureaucratic jobs that often, in David Graeber language, if they were kind of disappeared tomorrow, the world would probably muddle along quite nicely without them. But they get paid rather well and they have prestige and people listen to them, and being listened to is like a really big thing. Horrible things happened to them, namely Corbyn and Brexit, these two kind of nightmares, which unseated them, and I suppose the 2008 financial crisis. And when you get to 2024 and Starmer coming into 10 Downing Street and the media outriders saying, well, this is going to be like 97 and Blair, isn't it? You're going to have Noel Gallagher going in there and we're going to have a wonderful time and it's going to be cool Britannia again and everything's going to be wonderful. And what the fuck are these people on? Seriously. The people who we trust to be the professional knowers of things and understanders of things were incapable. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they knew. Maybe this is, maybe it's less kind of. Maybe it's less cynicism and maybe less stupidity and more general cynicism. But there was this sense that the country had finally tired of the Tories, and now something was going to change. And obviously nothing has changed. In that this professional managerial class that is represented in the guise of the Labour Party, from which the left has been purged, and the interests of that class are now writ large, in simply the restoration of their prestige. Ironically, they're not likely to get any of the things that they wanted, particularly a reversal of Brexit. Starmer hasn't got even the courage to have a crack at that. But what we do have now is this parliamentary Labour Party that is completely incapable, like rabbit in the headlights, terrified of addressing any of the most pressing issues. It's not capable of the national security issue of the day. A tech billionaire encouraging riots across the country from Britain's angry, disaffected underclass. It's not capable of meaningfully addressing Britain's sort of economic vassalage to the US in the guise of private equity and the ownership of all of Britain's public utilities. It's not capable of doing a single thing. I mean, because there's literally no ideological framework, there's no theory of change, there's no general view about how you affect change at all, other than this kind of idiot idea that Starmer kept repeating at the start of his administration of, well, I'll just bring about economic growth, that's what I'll do. Oh, great. Well, why didn't anybody else think of that? And when you're bringing about economic growth, who are you bringing about economic growth for? What is the point of growing the economy when the returns go to a tiny 1%? And and growth in itself, we're on a planet of finite resources where the temperatures year on year are going up, which would suggest, in the kind of like the donut economics sense, that we are smashing beyond the limits of of permissible growth. The idea that growth is a kind of a meaningful answer is only the kind of language that neoliberals use when they wish to avoid questions of redistribution. There's this old right-wing think tank chestnut of, well, instead of giving the workers a bigger slice of the cake, why don't we just make the cake itself bigger? And it's on the same level of nonsense as the Laffer curve and all of these kinds of things. But that was the sort of stuff that Starmer was coming out with at the start of his administration, and the idea that they were going to bring about investment in the country. Well, they didn't bring about investment in the country; they simply sold stuff off. Investment implies that some delightful, benign, passing private equity firm manager will decide, for some reason, to come and just put money into the economy. I'm going to build factories here out of the goodness of my heart. I'm going to build roads there out of the goodness of my heart. Well, that's not what happens. What happens is they come and in the post-Brexit economic anarchy that we live in, see fire sale deals. There's stuff they want to buy. They buy assets, and when other countries own your assets, your country gets poorer gradually over time. This is the way of things. It's a kind of a sort of colonization almost. Anyway, Starmer hasn't got a framework of economic ideas or political ideas, and he's kind of proud of that. He likes that fact about himself. I don't believe in anything. I'm just here to do stuff. Well, if you don't believe in anything and you're here to do stuff, the things that you do inevitably benefit the people who put the last idea you heard into your head, and they're the wealthy people who have access. So think of this kind of stew of meaninglessness. And by the way, anybody who has presented themselves, for example, Corbyn and McDonnell, with a meaningful kind of project for change, or Polanski at the moment, they're the people who are most hated, most feared, most detested, and most likely to be undermined by the 1% and their media outriders. So you want to have this kind of moronic, slightly kind of brutal authoritarian clown show in charge, because that's the way, if you are an elite class, you get the stuff done that you want to happen. So there we are. Economic capture is downstream from political capture. And good luck having these guys sort out, burning tires in Belfast right now.